Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in every life when you start to see what others can't. When the veil lifts and you begin to notice the patterns, the truths, and the cracks that most people spend their whole lives ignoring. And while it sounds like a gift, it doesn't always feel like one. Because the danger of seeing what others don't is that you often walk alone. You will be misunderstood, judged, even ridiculed. Not because you're wrong, but because you're awake in a world that prefers to stay asleep. Your silence will intimidate them. Your peace will disturb them. Your growth will expose the parts of themselves they're still running from. But hear this. Just because they don't see what you see doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're ahead. This message is for the ones who were told they're too intense, too deep, too different. This message is for the truth seekers, the light carriers, the cycle breakers. So if you've ever felt the weight of being awake in a sleeping world, lean in. Because today we're going to talk about the power, the pain, and the purpose of seeing what others refuse to, and why you must never apologize for your vision. The curse and the gift of vision, ladies and gentlemen. Not everyone is given the ability to see beyond the surface, to truly perceive things others ignore. If you're one of those rare souls who can see what others don't, patterns, possibilities, truths, hiding behind facades, you already know that this gift can feel more like a burden. Because let's be real, seeing what others don't often means feeling what others won't. It means carrying the weight of awareness in a world that chooses ignorance for comfort. You notice when a relationship is turning toxic before anyone else does. You sense when someone's words don't match their energy. You can tell when a situation is headed downhill, even when everyone around you is still smiling and pretending like everything's fine. People call you negative, dramatic, or too intense, not realizing you're not making up problems. You're just ahead of the curve. You're reading the signs while they're still caught in the illusion. And here lies the danger. When you see what others don't, you risk isolation. You risk ridicule. People don't like being shown truths they're not ready to face. They may turn on you, mock you, or push you away. Your gift of insight becomes a reason for others to label you as difficult or too much. You become the outcast, not because you're wrong, but because you're real. But make no mistake, your vision is not a flaw. It's a signal that you're awake in a world that's still sleeping. And waking people up has never been a comfortable task. It's not glamorous. It doesn't earn you applause. It demands courage. It demands conviction. And most importantly, it demands that you don't betray yourself just to be accepted by those who can't see what you see. When you have vision, your path will feel lonely at times. But that loneliness, it's sacred, because it puts you in alignment with truth, not trends. And in time, you'll realize that the danger of seeing what others don't is also the beginning of stepping into leadership, purpose, and legacy. So if you're feeling misunderstood, misjudged, or misplaced, it might just mean you're meant to lead, you're meant to rise. Don't shrink your vision just because others are afraid of it. Don't dim your light because it exposes their darkness. Keep seeing, keep speaking, keep standing, even if you're the only one who does. When vision makes you the outsider. Let's talk about one of the hardest parts of having vision: being misunderstood. When you see what others don't, you're often the first one to speak up. You raise questions no one else wants to ask. You bring attention to cracks in the foundation while everyone else is busy admiring the paint on the walls. But instead of being thanked for your clarity, you're often met with discomfort, defensiveness, or outright rejection. Why? Because people are afraid of truth, especially when it challenges the reality they've grown comfortable in. You become the outsider, not because you're wrong, but because you're different. You begin to notice that being the one who gets it early can actually feel like a punishment. You sense betrayal before it happens. You feel the energy shift in a room. You detect false intentions hidden beneath sweet words. It's not paranoia, it's perception. But when you try to explain what you see, people look at you like you're crazy. They say you're overthinking. They tell you to relax. And in those moments, it's tempting to start doubting yourself. But here's the truth. Just because others don't validate your insight doesn't mean it isn't real. Not everyone has the eyes to see what you do, and that's not your fault. That's not a weakness. That's your strength. But the world isn't always kind to those who carry deep inner clarity. It often isolates them. You'll see it in friendships. You'll realize someone isn't good for your peace before anyone else notices. You'll call it out, only to be told you're being judgmental. Months later, when the truth finally explodes, they'll say, "You were right all along." But by then, you've already paid the price of being right too soon. You'll see it in your career. While others play it safe, you'll sense opportunities no one else can. You'll pitch bold ideas, suggest pivots, or challenge the way things have always been done. And when people resist, it won't be because you're wrong. It'll be because your insight threatens their comfort zone. Vision separates, it elevates, yes, but it also isolates. You'll walk into rooms where you're not welcomed because your very presence exposes the shallowness of the conversation. You'll find yourself alone, not because you're weak, but because you're willing to walk in truth while others hide in illusion. This is the danger, but also the calling. Because here's what no one tells you. The very thing that makes you different is what will make you powerful. Don't abandon your vision just to belong. You weren't born to blend in. You were born to awaken. So walk boldly with your insight, even if it makes others uncomfortable, even if it sets you apart. Better to stand alone in truth than be embraced in ignorance. The burden of awareness. Awareness is not always a blessing. Sometimes it's a burden. And when you see what others don't, that burden becomes heavy. Not because you're weak, but because the weight of truth is not evenly distributed. Some people are built to see deeper, feel deeper, and understand more. But with that understanding comes responsibility and often isolation. You walk through life noticing things others dismiss. You see the subtle signs of manipulation in someone's tone. You catch the inconsistencies in a person's actions long before others even start to question them. You sense when something is off, not because someone told you, but because your spirit whispers warnings. You are tuned in deeply and sharply. But most people aren't. They move through life reacting, not reflecting, living at the surface while you dwell in the depths. And it's hard, because there's no off switch. Once your eyes are open, you can't unsee. Once your heart has discerned truth, you can't unknow. You can't pretend everything's fine when it's not. You can't laugh at fake jokes or celebrate fake wins. You can't nod along with the crowd when you know the path they're following leads to nowhere. That's the burden of awareness. It disconnects you from the masses, not out of pride, but out of principle. Sometimes you'll wish you didn't see so much. You'll envy those who walk through life oblivious, unbothered, unaffected. You'll wonder if ignorance really is bliss. But here's what you must remember. Ignorance might feel lighter, but it leads to stagnation. Awareness, though heavy, leads to transformation. The danger lies in thinking you're broken because you carry this burden. You're not. You're gifted. But society rarely makes room for people like you. It praises followers, not foreseers. It rewards silence, not insight. It welcomes conformity, not conviction. So you will feel the peep thought of, oh, it's safe to be, or to shrink, to doubt yourself, to second guess what you know deep down to be true. But don't betray your gift just to gain temporary acceptance. Don't numb your awareness just to fit in with the unaware. You were given this depth for a reason. You were called to see beyond the illusion because you're meant to lead others out of it. Yes, the burden is real, but so is the breakthrough that follows it. So is the beauty that lies on the other side of clarity. And so is the impact you'll make when you stop running from what you see and start standing firmly in it. So carry your awareness like a crown, not a curse. It's not the weight that breaks you, it's how you carry it that shapes you. You don't just see more, you are more. Why they won't understand you. When you begin to see what others don't, one of the hardest pills to swallow is this. They won't understand you. Not now, maybe not ever. And it's not because you're confusing or unclear, it's because their vision isn't ready to perceive what you're pointing at. People only recognize what they've been prepared to see. Their experiences, beliefs, fears, and desires act like filters, distorting the truth or blocking it entirely. So when you speak from a higher level of awareness, they may hear your words but miss your meaning. They may think you're overreacting, being dramatic, or making things up. You'll try to explain what you see, what you feel, what you know, and you'll be met with blank stares, silence, or worse, ridicule. This disconnect can be painful. It can make you question yourself. Am I wrong? Am I crazy? Why doesn't anyone else see this? But remember this, your clarity is not their confusion to carry, and their confusion is not your clarity to doubt. You weren't designed to be universally understood. You were designed to be divinely aligned. And sometimes that alignment sets you apart. It doesn't make you better than others, but it does make you different. And different, in a world that worships sameness, can feel like a threat. That's why they might push you away. That's why some relationships start to feel strained. That's why your presence might start to feel uncomfortable to people who haven't confronted their own truth yet. You mirror back what they're not ready to face. You illuminate what they've worked hard to keep in the dark. And in doing so, you unintentionally disrupt their comfort zones. But here's what you must understand. Their inability to understand you is not your failure. It's simply a reflection of where they are in their journey. Some people are still in the cocoon, others are barely crawling out, but you might already be flying, and your wings look strange to those who have never felt the wind. So stop shrinking to be accepted. Stop dimming to be liked. Stop softening your truth just to keep others comfortable. You're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to be real. You're here to live from your soul, not their approval. And in time, the right people will recognize your depth. The right people will understand your silence. The right people will feel your energy before you say a word. You won't have to explain yourself to them. They'll just get it. So keep being you, even when it's lonely. Keep standing in your truth, even when it's unpopular, because the danger of seeing what others don't is nothing compared to the danger of pretending you don't see it just to fit in. You're not here to be understood. You're here to be the reminder that there's more to see. Isolation is a part of elevation. There's a moment in every visionary's life when the noise fades and the crowd disappears, and all that's left is silence. That silence? It's not punishment, it's preparation. Because when you start seeing what others don't, the path ahead becomes narrower, quieter, and more solitary. Elevation requires isolation. Not because you want to be alone, but because the clarity you've gained no longer fits in the chaos of where you used to be. You start noticing conversations that go nowhere, relationships that don't grow, routines that keep you stagnant. And when you try to explain it, people look at you like you've changed. And guess what? You have. You're not the same person who tolerated shallow talks, fake smiles, and surface-level ambitions. You've outgrown the comfort of the crowd. And that's exactly why it feels lonely, because you're no longer driven by validation, approval, or fitting in. You're driven by purpose, by alignment, by a vision only you can fully see. This isn't about arrogance or superiority, it's about authenticity. The higher you go, the fewer people can breathe the air with you. You're operating on a different frequency. And with that comes a sense of detachment from your old life, your old self, and even your old community. It hurts, doesn't it? To feel unseen, to walk into rooms and realize you no longer belong, to try to connect, but feel a growing distance between your truth and their tolerance. That ache you feel isn't weakness, it's spiritual stretching. It's the universe pulling you out of environments you've outgrown so you can rise into the ones that match your next level. But you must be strong here. You must understand that loneliness isn't a sign you're lost, it's a sign you're moving forward. Think about the seed buried in the dark soil. It has to break apart, stretch upward, and push through the dirt in solitude. Before it ever sees the light. No one cheers for it, no one notices it, but it keeps going because growth doesn't wait for applause. You are that seed, breaking old patterns, rising through resistance, pushing through the darkness of being misunderstood, and eventually you'll bloom into something undeniable. So don't resist the isolation. Use it. Let it refine your voice, sharpen your vision, and deepen your connection to your purpose. Talk to God more. Reflect more. Strengthen your inner foundation, because when you emerge from this season, you won't be the same. You'll be stronger, clearer, bolder, and the world will see what you saw all along. Not because they suddenly became ready, but because you finally stepped fully into who you were always meant to be. So embrace the isolation. It's not the end of your journey. It's the beginning of your transformation. Isolation is a part of elevation. There's a moment in every visionary's life when the noise fades and the crowd disappears, and all that's left is silence. That silence? It's not punishment, it's preparation. Because when you start seeing what others don't, the path ahead becomes narrower, quieter, and more solitary. Elevation requires isolation. Not because you want to be alone, but because the clarity you've gained no longer fits in the chaos of where you used to be. You start noticing conversations that go nowhere, relationships that don't grow, routines that keep you stagnant. And when you try to explain it, people look at you like you've changed. And guess what? You have. You're not the same person who tolerated shallow talks, fake smiles, and surface-level ambitions. You've outgrown the comfort of the crowd. And that's exactly why it feels lonely, because you're no longer driven by validation, approval, or fitting in. You're driven by purpose, by alignment, by a vision only you can fully see. This isn't about arrogance or superiority, it's about authenticity. The higher you go, the fewer people can breathe the air with you. You're operating on a different frequency. And with that comes a sense of detachment from your old life, your old self, and even your old community. It hurts, doesn't it? To feel unseen, to walk into rooms and realize you no longer belong, to try to connect, but feel a growing distance between your truth and their tolerance. That ache you feel isn't weakness, it's spiritual stretching. It's the universe pulling you out of environments you've outgrown so you can rise into the ones that match your next level. But you must be strong here. You must understand that loneliness isn't a sign you're lost, it's a sign you're moving forward. Think about the seed buried in the dark soil. It has to break apart, stretch upward, and push through the dirt in solitude. Before it ever sees the light. No one cheers for it, no one notices it, but it keeps going because growth doesn't wait for applause. You are that seed, breaking old patterns, rising through resistance, pushing through the darkness of being misunderstood, and eventually you'll bloom into something undeniable. So don't resist the isolation, use it. Let it refine your voice, sharpen your vision, and deepen your connection to your purpose. Talk to God more, reflect more, strengthen your inner foundation, because when you emerge from this season, you won't be the same. You'll be stronger, clearer, bolder, and the world will see what you saw all along. Not because they suddenly became ready, but because you finally stepped fully into who you were always meant to be. So embrace the isolation. It's not the end of your journey. It's the beginning of your transformation. When you refuse to play along, there comes a moment when you simply stop playing the game. You stop pretending you don't see what's wrong. You stop laughing at what's not funny. You stop nodding along with opinions that contradict your values. You stop showing up in places that drain you just to avoid being judged. You stop watering dead plants, dead relationships, dead habits, dead conversations. That's what happens when you begin to see differently. You can't play along with a script you no longer believe in. And the moment you refuse to play along, everything shifts. Some people will fall away. Some will push harder to pull you back into character. They'll call you cold. They'll call you selfish. They'll say you've changed, and you have. Not because you're heartless, but because you've grown tired of the performance. There's a hidden pressure society places on us to keep things normal. Don't ask hard questions. Don't challenge tradition. Don't speak the truth if it makes people uncomfortable. And for a while, maybe you tried to fit in. Maybe you tried to play nice. But now you see, fitting in is not worth your peace. When you stop playing along, you take your power back. You stop letting people manipulate your silence. You stop letting fear dictate your decisions. You stop betraying yourself for the sake of acceptance. And here's the reality. Not everyone is going to like the new you. The you who sees clearly. The you who doesn't entertain nonsense. The you who doesn't need external validation to walk in confidence. That version of you intimidates those who benefit from your confusion. But don't shrink. Don't explain. Don't water yourself down for people who preferred the version of you that tolerated disrespect. You're not here to blend in. You're here to break cycles. You're not here to please everyone. You're here to live in truth. You're not here to tiptoe through life. You're here to walk in purpose. When you refuse to play along, you'll lose some people, but you'll find your voice. You'll find your focus. You'll find your fire. You weren't meant to be a character in someone else's story. You were meant to be the author of your own. And authors don't apologize for rewriting the script when the old one no longer fits. So let them say what they will. Let them whisper. Let them walk. Because in the end, the cost of truth is always less than the cost of betrayal, especially self-betrayal. The danger of seeing what others don't is that you'll often have to walk alone for a while. But the beauty is, you'll finally be walking in the direction that was always meant for you. Refuse to play along and watch your life transform. The misunderstood path. When you start to see life through a different lens, don't expect everyone to applaud. Don't expect cheers, support, or even basic understanding. Because the path of seeing what others don't is not just lonely, it's misunderstood. People won't always understand why you quit the job everyone envied. They won't understand why you walked away from a relationship that looked perfect from the outside. They won't get why you no longer find comfort in certain crowds, or why you suddenly stopped showing up to places you once frequented. They'll ask questions like, "What's gotten into you?" Or say things like, "You've changed," and they won't mean it as a compliment. And that's the price of clarity. You see, when you start waking up, when you start seeing the cracks in the foundation, people who are still asleep will think you're the problem. They'll call your awareness negativity. They'll label your transformation as rebellion. But in truth, you're simply no longer willing to walk blind. You're no longer satisfied with surface-level living. You're no longer impressed by the masks people wear. You're no longer interested in maintaining an image if it means compromising your truth. The misunderstood path is often the most purposeful one, because the path that's easily accepted by everyone is rarely the one that leads to your destiny. It's easy to follow the crowd. It's easy to accept what you've been told without ever questioning it. But growth never comes from ease. It comes from discomfort, from stretching, from the willingness to be different. You don't wake up one day with vision and suddenly get a standing ovation. You get silence, you get distance, you get pushed to the edge because truth, real truth, makes people uncomfortable. It challenges their denial, it shakes their illusions, it confronts their fears. And most people don't want to be confronted. They want comfort, they want predictability, they want you to be the version of yourself that doesn't make them reflect. But here's the truth you need to hold on to. You don't need to be understood to be aligned. You don't need validation to keep walking. And you don't need a crowd to move in purpose. The most powerful people in history, the trailblazers, the visionaries, the changemakers, they were all misunderstood at some point. They were criticized, rejected, and isolated, but they stayed the course. They trusted the voice within more than the noise outside. So when the silence grows loud, when the distance feels personal, when you start to doubt the road you're on, remember this. Being misunderstood is not a sign you're wrong. It's often the clearest proof that you're no longer playing small. Keep walking, keep seeing, keep rising. Your clarity may cost you connection, but it will gift you direction. And in the end, that's worth everything. The inner battle between silence and speaking up. When you begin to see what others don't, you're confronted with a difficult question. Should I stay silent or should I speak? And this question doesn't just show up once, it follows you at every turn. There's a constant war inside you. One part of you wants to share what you've discovered, the truth you've uncovered, the clarity you've received. You want to warn others, wake them up, help them see what's hidden in plain sight. You feel almost responsible, like someone handed you a torch, and it's now your job to light the way for those still in the dark. But then, there's the other part of you, the tired part. The one that remembers what happened the last time you spoke up. The one that recalls the backlash, the ridicule, the judgment. You remember how people looked at you like you were crazy, dramatic, or too deep. You remember how they minimized your message because it made them uncomfortable. So you stay silent. You learn to carry your insights quietly, like a burden you weren't prepared for. And that's the hard part. Because seeing the truth but not being able to speak it out loud can feel like slow suffocation. It's like watching someone walk toward a cliff, and every time you try to shout a warning, your voice is drowned by their laughter. But here's the thing, your silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Sometimes staying quiet is not about fear, but about understanding. You realize that people can only receive what they are ready to receive. That no matter how clear your vision is, if someone's mind is closed, your words will feel like noise to them. Speaking the truth is powerful, but timing is everything. There's a time to shout from the rooftops, and there's a time to hold your peace, protect your energy, and let people discover their truth at their own pace. You're not here to drag people into awareness. You're here to be a light. a mirror, an example. Let your life speak louder than your voice. Let your peace become your protest. Let your growth challenge their stagnancy without ever needing to argue. And when the time comes, when someone's soul is ready, your words will find them like water in a desert. So yes, the battle between silence and speaking up is real, but don't let it drain you. Speak when you're led to. Be silent when you must. And never mistake your quiet moments for powerlessness. Sometimes, silence shakes the ground louder than screams. You don't need to convince anyone. Your role is not to prove, but to walk in truth. To be so grounded in what you know that the world eventually turns to you. Not because you shouted the loudest, but because you stood the strongest, and that is where your power lives. When you outgrow the conversations around you, there comes a point in your journey, once your eyes are open and your mind is awake, when the conversations around you start to feel small. It's not that you're better than anyone else. It's not arrogance. It's growth. It's clarity. It's the realization that the same old cycles of gossip, complaining, shallow opinions, and surface-level distractions no longer feed your soul. You sit in rooms where people are arguing about things that don't matter, chasing validation that won't last, and defending belief systems that are rooted in fear, not truth. And while they're busy debating drama and distractions, you're sitting there wondering, how can I contribute something meaningful to the world? That feeling of misalignment hits you in the gut. It's lonely, because now you're no longer comfortable in the places that once felt like home. You start to crave depth. You crave honesty. You want to talk about purpose, healing, destiny, energy, mindset, and legacy. But most people just want to talk about what's trending, what's wrong, or what someone else is doing. And here's the danger. If you're not careful, you'll begin to question yourself. You'll wonder if you're the problem. You'll think, maybe I'm being too serious, or maybe I should just relax and fit in. But don't fall into that trap. Don't shrink your vision to match someone else's limitation. You are not meant to fit into every room. You're meant to transform the room you walk into, or if necessary, build a new one. It's okay to walk away from conversations that no longer reflect who you're becoming. In fact, it's necessary, because when you keep exposing your spirit to small talk and toxic energy, you slowly start to forget who you are and what you're capable of. You start to question your own awakening because the people around you haven't caught up yet. But remember, silence is not weakness and distance is not disrespect. It's self-respect. It's maturity. It's knowing that your energy is sacred and you don't have to waste it trying to pull people into a depth they're not ready to swim in. So don't apologize for outgrowing conversations, circles, or even identities that once defined you. That's how evolution works. What once fit you perfectly will eventually feel too tight. And when it does, you don't blame the clothing. You just realize it's time to grow into something new. Surround yourself with those who talk about ideas, not people, purpose, not problems, vision, not vanity. Because once you start seeing what others don't, your life must reflect that shift. Your circle, your conversations, your priorities. They all have to level up. If not, the weight of your insight will crush you in rooms that are too small for your calling. Section 11. Protecting your vision from those who don't see it. When you begin to see differently, you must also learn to guard what you see. Your vision, your calling, your awakening, your clarity is sacred. It's a seed, and just like a seed, it is vulnerable in its early stages. Before it blooms, before the roots are strong, that vision can be crushed by careless words, uninspired minds, and people who project their own fears onto your future. Not everyone will understand where you're headed, and that's okay. But what's not okay is allowing the blindness of others to dim your sight. Some people will try to talk you out of your destiny, not because they're malicious, but because they can't imagine something greater for themselves, so they can't imagine it for you either. They'll say, be realistic. They'll question your passion, your ambition, your ideas. They'll tell you all the reasons why it won't work. And if you're not grounded, you'll believe them. But understand this, you weren't given that scion by accident. It was entrusted to you. That dream that keeps you up at night. That shift in your spirit that's pulling you away from the familiar, that's divine guidance. That's your soul, remember. When your light exposes their shadows, there's something uncomfortable that happens when you start to rise. When you begin to operate in clarity, in purpose, in divine alignment, your presence alone can become confrontational. Not because you're trying to offend anyone, but because your light starts to expose other people's shadows. Let that sink in. When you start healing, it reminds others that they're still hurting. When you grow, it reminds them they've been stagnant. When you elevate your standards, it reminds them of what they've tolerated. You don't even have to say a word. Your energy speaks, your focus speaks, your self-respect speaks, and that silent testimony can feel threatening to someone who's still hiding from their own truth. But here's the lesson. That's not your problem to fix. You are not responsible for how your growth makes someone else feel. Let go of the guilt that comes when people say, "You've changed." Because guess what? You're supposed to. You're not meant to stay small, stuck, or silent just to make others comfortable. Too many people stay where they are because they're afraid of who they'll lose if they grow. But what you need to understand is this: anyone who truly belongs in your life will not be intimidated by your light. They'll celebrate it. They'll grow with you. They'll cheer for you even when your success makes them examine their own life. And the ones who fall away, let them. Some people are only assigned to the version of you that was insecure, unsure, or playing it safe. When you evolve, their season expires. And you have to be willing to release people who are no longer aligned with where you're going, even if they were once essential to where you've been. Don't dim your light to keep people around. Don't apologize for having vision, for having drive, for setting boundaries, for choosing peace. Your light is not a weapon, it's a reminder, a mirror. And what people see in that mirror is their own unfinished work. You can't carry the weight of someone else's unhealed wounds. You can't shrink yourself to fit into places you've outgrown. You can't keep explaining why you've chosen to rise when you were born to soar. So stand in your light unapologetically. Let it shine, let it challenge, let it call out, let it inspire. And if your light makes someone uncomfortable, that's not a sign for you to dim it. It's a sign for them to step into their own. Don't be afraid to be the mirror. Sometimes that's exactly what people need to finally wake up to their own potential. Keep rising, keep shining, keep seeing what others don't, and don't ever apologize for it. The courage to walk alone with vision others can't understand. There's a unique kind of courage required to walk alone, not because you want solitude, but because your vision sets you apart. When you see what others don't, you're often misunderstood. People question your moves, they doubt your timing, they wonder why you're taking a path no one else is taking. But what they don't understand is that vision is a private conversation between you and God. It wasn't given to the crowd. It wasn't meant to make sense to everyone. It was entrusted to you. And sometimes, carrying that vision means walking a lonely road. You will have moments where you're building alone, praying alone, grinding alone, without applause, without confirmation, and without the validation of the people you thought would always be in your corner. That's the cost of true vision. See, it's easy to follow the crowd. It's easy to fit into patterns and live by expectations. But the ones who shift this world, the ones who leave a legacy, they're the ones who kept walking when no one else believed. They're the ones who kept building when there was no blueprint. They're the ones who trusted their calling even when it made no sense to others. That's you. Don't let loneliness trick you into thinking you're lost. You're not lost. You're just first. You're paving a way that hasn't been traveled yet. That kind of path doesn't come with praise. It comes with resistance. It comes with rejection. It comes with the weight of being misunderstood. But still, you walk. Because deep down, you know, what you see is real, what you feel is true, and what you're creating has the power to shift everything, not just for you, but for generations after you. Sometimes isolation is not punishment, it's preparation. You're being sharpened, focused, and tested in silence so you can carry what others can't. You're learning how to trust yourself when the noise dies down. You're discovering how to depend on your inner voice instead of outside opinions. And that inner strength, that's what will sustain you when storms hit. Don't rush to be seen. Don't beg to be understood. Don't trade your calling for comfort or your truth for approval. Walk alone if you must. Because eventually, the very people who doubted you will look up and see the reality of what only you once saw. They'll say, "How did you know?" And your answer will be simple: "Because I believed, even when no one else did." So keep going. Keep trusting the vision, even if it costs you support, popularity, or ease. Because one day, the world will catch up to what you already knew. And on that day, the silence, the solitude, the struggle, it will all make sense. Protecting your energy from small-mindedness. When you carry big vision, you must be very intentional about one thing: protecting your energy. Because visionaries don't just get attacked with physical obstacles, they get drained by small-minded environments, petty distractions, and people who can't think beyond survival. You must understand this. Not everyone has the capacity to dream big. Not everyone has trained their mind to expand, to rise, to evolve. Many are stuck in cycles of fear, of gossip, of scarcity. And if you don't guard your energy, you'll be pulled into those same cycles. You'll start questioning your dream just because the people around you can't grasp it. That's why protecting your energy is not selfish. It's survival for the visionary. You can't afford to entertain conversations rooted in fear when your dream is rooted in faith. You can't afford to surround yourself with people who belittle growth while you're out here trying to break generational curses. You can't afford to make your soul small just to keep others comfortable. Some people will never clap for you, not because you did something wrong, but because your light reminds them of their own darkness. Your drive awakens their complacency. Your discipline exposes their laziness, and your boldness threatens the fragile version of themselves they've settled for. And here's the truth. You don't owe anyone your peace. You don't have to argue with small thinkers. You don't have to over-explain your decisions. You don't have to shrink to be palatable. You are not obligated to stay in places where your spirit constantly has to dim itself to survive. Real power lies in discernment. Know when to walk away. Know when to stay silent. Know when to close the door, not because you're bitter, but because your soul deserves better. Protecting your energy means choosing peace over proving points. It means prioritizing alignment over approval. It means knowing when to say, "This space no longer serves who I'm becoming." You don't grow by feeding drama, you grow by feeding vision. That's why it's essential to audit your circle. Who's pouring into you? Who challenges you to think higher? Who respects your boundaries and your growth process? If the people around you drain you more than they develop you, it's time to adjust the atmosphere. There will be seasons where isolation is necessary, not as punishment, but as protection. Sometimes God will separate you just to elevate you. And the space between where you are and where you're going will feel lonely, but that's where transformation happens. So protect your energy, like your life depends on it, because it does. Every dream you hold, every idea you carry, every vision that's burning in your spirit, it needs a healthy environment to survive. And you are responsible for creating that environment. Stop giving your peace to people who haven't earned your presence. You're building something sacred. Guard it like it matters, because it does. The isolation that comes with insight. When you start seeing things differently, seeing deeper, farther, and clearer than those around you, isolation becomes inevitable. Not because you've changed for the worse, but because your vision has evolved beyond the current atmosphere. It's not that you're better than anyone. It's that your lens has shifted, and once you see truth, you can't unsee it. Insight carries a price. You'll start to notice patterns in people, their unhealed wounds, their repeated cycles, their fear of change masked as pride. You'll feel conversations becoming shallow. You'll see how much energy people waste talking about nothing, avoiding everything that matters, and you'll begin to crave silence, clarity, and alignment more than noise, chaos, and connection. This is the beginning of the lonely road that every awakened soul walks. It's not easy, it's not glamorous, it's not always peaceful, but it's necessary. Because with deeper awareness comes the need for deeper solitude. You can't process profound insight in environments that only value surface living. You can't pour from a full soul when everyone around you is content staying empty. So you'll retreat, not out of bitterness, but out of protection. Not because you hate them, but because you finally love yourself enough to separate. Here's what most people don't tell you about growth. It will cost you comfort. You will lose people you once thought were lifelong friends. You'll outgrow rooms that once made you feel safe. You'll find yourself misunderstood by those who never cared to understand you in the first place, and that's okay. Don't fight the isolation. Honor it, because isolation doesn't mean abandonment. It often means elevation. God separates you to shape you, to refine you, to make sure you don't dilute your purpose, trying to fit into places that no longer match your calling. Let this sink in. You're not meant to be understood by everyone. You're not meant to fit into every crowd. You're not called to be common. You're called to be chosen. And chosen people walk alone until the right season brings the right tribe. During this season of isolation, you'll start building something far more valuable than popularity: authenticity. You'll stop seeking validation and start trusting your intuition. You'll become comfortable with the silence because you've made peace with your soul. And in that stillness, clarity will speak. You'll hear the whispers of your purpose louder. You'll get ideas others can't comprehend. You'll receive downloads that shift entire paths. And though it hurts sometimes to walk alone, the reward is priceless: freedom, alignment, and power. So don't curse the isolation. Don't rush to fill the void. Let it work on you. Let it refine you. Because on the other side of it is a version of you who no longer needs the crowd to know you're walking in purpose. You're not lonely. You're becoming legendary. Keep walking. And why most people won't follow you. When you start living with clarity, when your eyes are open to things others ignore or deny, you'll find that people won't follow you. Not because they don't believe in you, but because they're afraid of what your vision exposes in themselves. It's not you they fear, it's the reflection in your mirror. You see, the moment you start rising above mediocrity, you unconsciously shine a light on their stagnation. Your growth makes them confront the fact that they've been standing still. Your bravery reminds them of every time they backed down. Your discipline reveals their excuses. And that's a hard truth to swallow for someone who's not ready to grow. So they pull away. They'll say you've changed, and you have. They'll say you think you're better, and you don't. They'll say you're too intense, too driven, too serious. But you're just focused. And focus terrifies the unfocused. Direction disturbs the distracted. That's why you must learn not to take their silence personally. Don't internalize their distance or disapproval. They're not rejecting you. They're rejecting the version of themselves they're too afraid to become. Remember this: most people won't follow you because following you means giving up their comfort. It means letting go of the familiar. It means leaving behind what's easy for what's meaningful. And let's be honest, most people would rather be comfortable than fulfilled. But that doesn't mean you stop walking. Don't shrink to fit back into the place you've outgrown just because others chose to stay small. Don't dim your light to make others comfortable in the dark, and don't wait for permission from those who were never meant to understand your path. You were called to go first. You were called to break the generational patterns, to walk into rooms your family never dreamed of, to speak truths people are too scared to whisper, to build what didn't exist before you. That kind of calling doesn't come with a crowd. It comes with courage. The people who are meant to walk with you will catch up when it's time. The ones who are destined to grow with you will find their own path and join you in alignment. But until then, keep moving forward. Keep doing the work. Keep honoring the vision that was placed in your spirit. Because here's the real truth. You weren't made to be followed. You were made to lead. And leaders often walk alone before they are recognized. Let your life speak louder than your words. Let your transformation be the evidence. Let your peace, power, and persistence show them what's possible, not because you preached it, but because you lived it. They might not follow you now, but one day they'll look back and realize you were the blueprint. And when that day comes, don't say, "I told you so." Just smile and keep walking. When you see what others can't, you become a target. Clarity is a blessing, but it's also a burden. Because the moment you begin to see through the noise, through the manipulation, through the illusion of the world, you become a threat to everything that depends on blindness to survive. When you see what others can't, you're not just different, you're dangerous. Not dangerous in a violent or hostile way, but dangerous to systems built on control, to relationships built on deception, to workplaces built on compliance, to cultures built on silence. Your awareness makes people uncomfortable because it disrupts the narrative. You don't play the game the same way anymore. and that shakes the ground beneath those who benefit from your former ignorance. This is why people will question you. They'll say you're overthinking, being too deep, too spiritual, too paranoid, but they don't realize they're still asleep and your awakening is messing with their dream. So what do? They push back. They label you. They isolate you. They try to dim your light, not because you're wrong, but because your light reveals the darkness they've become comfortable living in. Don't take it personally. This is spiritual, this is mental, this is energetic. When your eyes open, you are no longer operating on the same level as before. And people who haven't shifted yet will feel the difference. It's like standing in a silent room after a loud concert. The silence is jarring. You become that silence, that shift, that unsettling realization that life has more to offer, but not everyone is willing to reach for it. And because of that, you'll be misunderstood. You'll walk into rooms where people whisper, not because you're doing something wrong, but because your energy carries truth they can't confront. You'll feel rejected in circles where your former self was once celebrated. You'll lose followers, friends, even family members. Why? Because you can't unsee what you've seen. And when you carry that kind of sight, you carry responsibility. But here's what you must remember. Being a target doesn't mean you're wrong. It means you're impactful. It means you're shifting something real. Think about the prophets, the visionaries, the inventors, the revolutionaries. None of them were embraced by the world when they first spoke. Why? Because truth never arrives with applause. It arrives with resistance. So if you're under attack for thinking differently, for choosing silence over gossip, growth over comfort, purpose over popularity, congratulations. You're walking the path of the awakened. Don't shrink, don't fold, don't let the arrows make you doubt the mission. Wear your clarity like armor, not shame. Because one day, the same people who targeted you will quote you. The same ones who dismissed you will follow you. The same world that once mocked your vision will try to claim they saw it first. But you'll know the truth. You saw it long before they were ready. Keep your eyes open, even when it hurts. There's a weight that comes with vision, a heaviness that those who see deeper must carry. Because once your eyes are opened, you can't go back to sleep. You can't pretend not to notice. You can't unsee the truth, even when it hurts, even when it isolates you, even when it breaks your heart. And yes, there will be moments when you wish you could go back to who you were before you saw it all so clearly, before you recognized the manipulation in someone's words, before you realized the job was killing your spirit, before you understood that your family wasn't as supportive as you once believed, before you saw that love in some relationships was just control dressed in affection. But you can't go back, and you shouldn't want to. That pain you're feeling, that ache of awareness, it's not a punishment, it's growth. It's your spirit leveling up. It's your discernment sharpening. It's your soul saying, now that you see it, do something about it. Because knowledge without action is still a form of denial. And the truth is, vision without discipline will destroy you. It's not enough to just see. You have to move differently because of what you've seen. You have to speak with intention, love with wisdom, and walk with discernment. You'll feel tempted to explain yourself to people who will never understand. But sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is fall silent. Let them think what they want. You have nothing to prove when you live in truth. Don't curse your clarity. It's your superpower. It's what makes you a leader, a healer, a creator, a force. But like any gift, it comes with responsibility. The world is full of distractions meant to lull people into sleep. You are wide awake, and that makes you rare. But rare is lonely. So you must learn to be your own comfort. You must learn to encourage yourself because not everyone will chew. Ear for the truth teller. Many will prefer the lie that soothes them over the truth that sets them free. But that's not your burden to carry. Your only job is to honor what you now know. To keep your eyes open, even when it hurts. To trust the vision, even when others mock it. To protect your peace, even when they call you cold for doing so. Because the pain of awareness is still better than the peace of ignorance. And in time, the pain fades, but the strength you build from staying awake, that lasts forever. So if your heart feels heavy right now because you see too much, feel too much, know too much, breathe. You're not broken, you're just awake. And that's the most powerful place to be in a world that thrives on illusion. Keep your eyes open, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts, because that's how you lead. You're not cold, you're clear. When you begin to walk in clarity, some people will call you cold, not because you are, but because you no longer tolerate confusion, chaos, or emotional manipulation. They don't understand that your detachment isn't cruelty, it's wisdom, it's boundaries, it's self-respect. You see, clarity changes your posture. It changes how you respond to people, how you engage in conversations, how you carry yourself in rooms that once drained you. It makes you quieter, more selective, less reactive. You don't fight every battle anymore. You don't try to prove your worth. You don't chase closure. Why? Because you've learned that peace is more important than pleasing people who never had your best interests at heart, and that scares them. To those who benefited from your confusion, your clarity looks like arrogance. To those who fed off your emotional availability, your new boundaries feel like rejection. But that's not your problem to fix. You've spent too many years trying to be soft for people who only handled you with sharp hands. Now, you've chosen to protect your softness with strength. And still, they'll say you've changed, that you're distant, that you're not the same. And they're right. You're not. You've evolved, you've grown, you've started to see the games. You've started to notice how people project their pain onto you. And most importantly, you've stopped apologizing for how deeply you feel, how loudly you love, and how clearly you now see. Because the truth is, clarity costs you comfort. It cost you relationships that were built on illusions. It cost you approval from people who only liked the version of you that didn't have boundaries. It cost you time and energy spent trying to explain yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. But what you gain in return is worth far more. Self-respect, peace of mind, emotional maturity, and the power to walk away from anything that threatens your inner balance. So let them think you're cold. Let them misunderstand your silence, your space, your no's, your non-responses. Let them assume that your distance means you no longer care. Because in reality, it means you care, just not at the cost of your well-being anymore. You're not heartless, you're healing, you're not bitter, you're building, you're not cold, you're clear. And clarity is rare in a world that thrives on confusion. Don't give it up to be accepted. Don't shrink it to make others feel safe, and don't apologize for having it. Because your clarity will lead you where confusion never could, into a life of truth, freedom, and unshakable peace. So hold your head high. Let the whispers come. You finally learned that walking in truth sometimes means walking alone, but you'll never lose yourself again. The cost of awareness is isolation, but it's also power. When you begin to wake up, really wake up, when your soul starts remembering who you are and what you're here to do, don't expect applause. Don't expect company. Don't expect people to cheer you on or walk beside you. Because the truth is, awareness often isolates before it elevates. It strips away the noise, the distractions, and yes, even the people who once felt like home but were really just holding you back from building your own. You see, awareness is a powerful gift, but it's not a comfortable one. It makes you see things you can't unsee. It exposes truths you were once content to ignore. It asks you to leave behind what's familiar for what's real, and not everyone around you is ready to go on that journey. Some are still clinging to illusions, to convenience, to comfort zones disguised as loyalty. And when you no longer play your old role in their life story, they won't like it. They'll call you selfish, disloyal, too serious, too distant. But you know the truth. You're not abandoning anyone. You're just finally choosing not to abandon yourself. This is what growth looks like. It's lonely. It's quiet. It's full of uncomfortable decisions. But it's also the most liberating experience you'll ever have. Because once you taste truth, you can't go back to pretending. You can't keep dimming your light to make others comfortable. You can't keep silencing your soul just to maintain peace with people who thrive on confusion. Awareness teaches you that not every relationship is meant to last. Some were only meant to awaken something in you, and once they do, it's time to move on. That doesn't mean you're heartless. It means you're no longer willing to carry dead weight on a path that demands you rise. So yes, awareness may cost you community, but it gives you clarity. It may cost you popularity, but it gives you peace. It may cost you comfort, but it gives you purpose. Because when you truly wake up, you stop settling, you stop chasing, you stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. And that is when your real power begins, not in crowds, but in silence, not in validation, but in conviction. And here's the paradox: the more isolated you feel on your journey, the more aligned you probably are. The higher you go, the thinner the air, and the fewer the people. But the view is worth it. So don't fear the isolation that comes with awareness. Embrace it. Let it refine you. Let it strengthen you. Let it teach you who you are without the noise. Because in the stillness of solitude, you'll find a strength no crowd could ever give you. A strength rooted in truth, clarity, and the kind of power that no one can take from you. And that is the price of awareness. Everything fake must go, but everything real will remain and rise. Let them misunderstand you. Your vision isn't meant for the blind, so here you are, seeing what others don't, feeling what others avoid, walking a path most can't even recognize, let alone follow. And maybe it's heavy. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you're wondering if it's worth it. Let me remind you, it is. Every time you chose awareness over comfort, you broke another chain. Every time you chose truth over validation, you stepped deeper into your purpose. Every time you let go of who you were to become who you're meant to be, you activated a power inside you that this world cannot dim. Yes, the danger of seeing what others don't is real, but so is the destiny that comes with it. You were never meant to fit in. You were never meant to water yourself down so others wouldn't feel insecure. You were never meant to keep quiet while your soul screamed for more. You were meant to rise, to break patterns, to shatter illusions, to see beyond what's visible and live from a deeper place. But with that gift comes responsibility. The responsibility to stay true to yourself even when you're doubted. The responsibility to protect your energy even when you're misunderstood. The responsibility to keep walking even when you're walking alone. Because the higher you climb, the fewer people you'll find who truly understand the view. And that's okay. You're not here for applause. You're here for alignment. You're here for purpose. You're here to build something eternal while the world is busy chasing what's temporary. So when people say you've changed, say thank you. When they pull away, let them. When they mock your silence, your standards, your solitude, stand anyway. You don't owe anyone a version of yourself that you've outgrown. The price of awareness is steep, but the reward is unshakable peace, unstoppable purpose, and undeniable power. Let your growth confuse the ones who counted on your silence. Let your discipline upset the ones who lived off your distraction. Let your light expose the darkness they're still hiding in. You're not too much. You're not too different. You're not broken. You're awakened. And the path of the awakened one is not for the faint of heart, but it is for the chosen. Don't shrink. Don't apologize. Don't stop. Keep going, because the ones who see what others don't are the ones who eventually build what others only dream of. Let them talk. You weren't born to be understood. You were born to lead. The lonely road you're on now is leading straight to greatness. Don't let their blindness make you question your vision. Walk boldly. Because when you see what others don't, you'll go where others can't.